Now, she's reached the top of the world and she returns home a hero. Saray Khumalo is coming back home today. She's the first black African female to summit Mount Everest. Now, eNCA's Michael Marillier standing by to welcome her at OR Tambo International Airport this morning. Michael, a very good morning to you. Now, we expect to see Saray sometime between 9:30 and 10 o'clock this morning. What are we expecting? What should we expect to see? A highly fatigued person? Are we expecting to see somebody who's still running on that adrenaline?
Absolutely, Uveka. We are expecting a few hundred people, in fact, at the arrivals gate a little bit earlier. But when I came into the airport, I happened across a certain gentleman you can see in the background here. That, of course, is a statue in honor of OR Tambo, a man who knows quite a few things, or knew quite a few things, about overcoming massive obstacles. And Saray Khumalo, of course, overcame massive obstacles herself, becoming the first black African woman to summit Mount Everest. And I just want to give you a sense of the scene with around about 90 minutes until Khumalo actually arrives. She is going to be greeted, of course, by that incredible statue of OR Tambo. Probably one of the first things she'll see as she lands back in South Africa. And she'll be coming through the arrival gates just behind me over here, Uveka. You can see a few people are gathered, but I'm guessing that we'll see the flags and all the excitement start to build over the next hour or so. We know she has quite a big fan base, especially amongst the climbing community in Johannesburg. So it's going to get busy in the next few minutes, I imagine.
Now, we know that she made this, or she achieved this on her fourth time getting up there to Everest and making it finally to the top, Michael. She's faced all kinds of obstacles. We understand it's not an easy thing to do, you yourself being a climber, having done Kilimanjaro as well, but she absolutely refused to give up. She went on till she got to the top. Just remind us of what were some of the challenges she would have faced on the way to the top there.
That's right, Uveka. She started in 2014. That was actually her first attempt on Everest. There was, of course, a massive avalanche in the area at the time, which forced her to return to South Africa. Then in 2015, Nepal was rocked by an earthquake. 20 people, in fact, died on Everest that year. Again, Saray had to abandon her expedition. She tried again last year, and get this, Uveka, she got within 100 vertical meters of the summit before having to turn back. We understand bad weather forced scores of climbers, in fact, to turn back. Saray was also suffering from a little bit of exposure at the time, but an incredibly brave attempt on Everest. And this year she got it right. So fourth time lucky for her. The first two times, of course, marred by tragedy. But as you say, she refused to give up. She came back time and time again.
Well, tragedy this time as well as other fellow climbers, some of them that she got to know didn't make it out alive as well this time, Michael. We know that there were 10 people who died on the mountain this season, and that's double what we saw last year. And we understand that, yes, there are many reasons for this, one of them being the actual queues to get to the top of the mountain. Tell us more about that as somebody who's in the know.
Uveka, we understand that the weather has been particularly good on Mount Everest this year. Now, that sounds fantastic. It means that more climbers can reach the summit. But what we are seeing as well is this phenomenon of overcrowding. More and more climbers trying to get to the summit because the weather is good, and that's forming long queues. And when climbers do get into trouble, when they're struggling with altitude sickness, it makes it very difficult for them to get off the mountain quickly and safely. And what we're hearing from reports from Mount Everest, Uveka, over the weekend is that at least 2 climbers suffered high altitude sickness close to the summit, and getting down was really difficult. The Sherpas and the guides really struggled to get them down quickly enough so that they were able to breathe in that rich, thick oxygen that they so desperately need when climbing Mount Everest. Thankfully, Saray managed to get to the top and get down safely, but it certainly is becoming a concern with more and more climbers heading to the top of the world.
Lots of risk involved there. Now, we understand that Saray is not going to stay grounded for very long after this, Michael, that she's already planning another expedition for next year. What do we know about her plans?
Well, it's an incredible expedition. In fact, Uveka, she's planning to summit the highest peak on each of the 7 continents. That includes Mount Everest. She's then planning to trek to the South Pole and trek to the North Pole as well. It's known as the 7.2 expedition. She's doing it along with a climber called Eric Vermeulen, and she's hoping to do it within 130 days. That, in fact, is the world record for this particular expedition. So if you think climbing Mount Everest was something, imagine climbing 7 mountains, then trekking to the North and the South Pole, all within the space of 3 months.
No, I'll just imagine it. I won't even try and attempt that. Thanks very much, Michael Marillier. He's at OR Tambo International Airport. He'll catch up with Saray Khumalo as she touches down when she gets back home. And I mean, Dan Moyane, you know Saray Khumalo outside of this and your life after eNCA. And I mean, I wonder, she's like Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
Wonder Woman.
And she serves with me on a corporate social investment board, and we sit there together. And I've told her, even if she left now, I said, you are crazy. I just said to her, I salute you.
She's getting crazy and North Pole to the South Pole or something like that.
Exactly. Now you're hearing this.